I'm already scared, this is intense. Shamelessly flirting. Oh, it's a policeman! Oh no! It's a policeman! Hi everyone, it's Christy Grace here. I am doing another classic collection video where I go back and watch some of the classic movies that I had just never seen before, and so there are a few more that are on my list for part 2 of the classic collection. So I am doing about 6 movies this time, and one of which is Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. This is just, everybody knows Psycho, I know some about it, but I just had never watched it, and it's a pretty intense movie, so that's why. There's a killer and, you know, Norman Bates, and there's, you know, the Janet Leigh in the shower, you know, like all of the classic stuff to know about it. The next movie that I'm watching as well will be Rain Man. It looks like it could be, you know, I mean, a little frustrating. I'll have to wait and see. Next on the list is a movie that I hear get talked about a lot, Field of Dreams. Never seen it before. I think there's that famous quote, if you build it, they'll come. I think that's from Field of Dreams, but I think it's a baseball type of a movie. Next on the list is a more of a chick flick type of a movie, Mona Lisa Smile. Actually, I believe it came from a book. I think so. Anyway, I think it's something like woman does things that she wants to. I don't know. Something like that. But we'll see. Second last movie is Castaway. Yay! Another Tom Hanks. I did Forrest Gump in the first classic collection video, and I think there's a ball that he creates into somebody he can talk to, but it's like a ball. He draws a face on it or something. You get pretty lonely by yourself, I would say. And the last and final movie that I will be watching is Good Will Hunting. I don't think I've ever even seen the trailer for this one, so I have absolutely no clue what it's about or what to expect. Woohoo! I'm surprised I got away with this scene. Well, duh. Rude. My gosh, this guy. Well, he's married, right? She doesn't care. Oh, ego, tawdry affair. Girl, what kind of saying is that? Oh, just wait. You can't buy happiness. I'll just bet you are. I'm onto it. I'm onto it. I got it. I see you. It's still wrong, but I see you. Oh, why would you ask that? Of course not. So these are actually my thoughts on the movies that I watched in the classic collection. One of the movies I actually didn't end up watching at all. I looked into Field of Dreams a bit more before I watched it and realized that I was not gonna watch it. But I did have the other 5 which I did watch. I don't remember what order I actually watched these in, so I'm just gonna go with the order that I want to. I'm gonna tell you about what I thought. Mona Lisa Smile I watched. As soon as I put the movie on and I got like a minute into it, I realized I had seen it before. My bad. I actually though had seen it so long ago that I didn't remember at all what it was about. So I didn't really remember it, which was good because I still got to enjoy it as if I was watching it for the first time. But when stuff happened, I was like, oh, I remember that. If you haven't seen the Mona Lisa Smile, it's essentially a story about a woman back, I don't actually remember, maybe like the 50s. She is at this university. She has a lot of progressive ideas, so basically feminism ideas of like, you don't have to just get married and that's it. Like you can actually go to college and university and learn things and be a successful, you know, person. Sort of almost coming of age, but really it's focusing on the teacher. It was good. It was nothing like what I thought. I, for some reason, had a completely different movie in my brain. I'm pretty sure I thought it was Eat, Pray, Love. I mean, there was a lot of like, you know, feminist themes in there, and some of the characters were quite irksome and annoyed me quite a lot. There was a lot of people in that movie that I didn't realize was in that movie. There were a lot of people I know that I'd seen in lots of different other things before. So I was very happy to see some familiar faces. I think overall the movie was okay and it didn't leave me with any too long-lasting impressions. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 popcorns. I had pretty strong feelings about the rest of these movies, so I'm just gonna try and contain myself as much as I can. I think I'm gonna start with Good Will Hunting. So I disliked a lot of this movie. If you haven't seen Good Will Hunting, it's essentially a story about a really smart kid, like genius level, but because he'd been in scrapes with the law, he didn't end up going to college or anything like that. And so they agree to, as long as he goes to therapy and does the math problems and that under the supervision of this professor dude, then he won't go to jail for assaulting a police officer. The characters, the acting, sorry. I actually just didn't like a lot of it. The only thing that I did enjoy in this movie was Robin Williams in his role as this therapist. He was a phenomenal therapist. Can I just say that first out of the bat? Like, he was an amazing therapist. I've been to my share of therapy and I've looked into psychology as part of my crime writing. I want to know about abnormal psychology. And so I have looked into psychology. I don't have any degrees, but I do know a little bit about, you know, the human mind, a little bit. I thought he was really good. There were some serious themes in here and some serious issues that he dealt with. He was in foster care, physical abuse and emotional abuse, all sorts of stuff. And he just didn't see his own worth. I think for me, most of what I didn't like about this movie was just, a really big pet peeve that I had was their accents. I get they're supposed to be from South Boston, but the accents were just awful. I love Matt Damon, but dang! I just didn't like the way that most of the characters were treated or treated each other. I didn't enjoy the plot or the story, and I think that was more personal preference, but I loved Robin Williams in this role of this therapist. He did a brilliant job. It was a drama. It wasn't a comedy role for him, and I was floored. I loved him. I gave this movie 2 popcorns out of 5. The only thing that saved it for me was Robin Williams as the therapist, but for the rest of it, I didn't care. I wasn't interested. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't actually care if Will used his gifts or not. He was such an ungrateful tool. That's what you want. People not rooting for your main character.
But before that, really quick, here I am popping in this video to remind you, if you are liking this content, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell because you will get notified when I am releasing a new video. And we're back in.
So, the next movie was Castaway. I love Tom Hanks. I was so gutted that I hated this movie. I hated this movie. I thought it was so boring. The only interesting bits really were the first 15 minutes and the last 10. Plane gets destroyed and he ends up as a castaway by himself on this island and has to try and survive and I suppose get back to civilization and escape. Unfortunately for me, the stuff on the island, I was really excited for that stuff. I love seeing sort of like these survivally type things. Arrow did it really well, but I think that for Arrow, because they got to weave their stories of him on the island in and out of present day as well, it was more interesting. The stuff with him, Tom Hanks on the island, was so dull. It was literally, there's barely any dialogue. Even when he does end up with Wilson, the volleyball that he has that he starts talking to as if was real, it was still dull dialogue. It was one-sided and it was quite boring, and I actually ended up skipping through a lot of stuff. I fast forwarded through. I couldn't get down with a lot of this just because it was so boring. If there was a little bit more action or dialogue, even if he was talking to himself, I talk to myself all the time, so I feel like that's realistic, but he didn't, and it was really quite dull. So, I mean, I really didn't enjoy it, and I was really sad because I love Tom Hanks, and I was excited for the movie.
Hey, so you might be wondering why I'm popping in here. The answer to your question is my stupidity. So I didn't realize that my camera cut me off after a certain amount of time of filming. So I actually lost the end of this video. However, I am gonna finish it now with you. Yeah. There were 2 more movies that I had to watch in my classic collection, and one of them was Rain Man. I thoroughly hated this film. Thoroughly hated this film. I think there was nothing that Tom Cruise's character could have done to redeem himself whatsoever for me. He was the most selfish human on the planet. He was selfish and he was inconsiderate, he was not patient, he was cruel to his brother who is autistic. And there was absolutely nothing that he could have done to redeem himself for me. I hated his character. I generally don't like him in much anyway. He did too much for too long of the movie that was crap to be able to come back at essentially the last, 10 minutes of the film and go, surprise, I actually love this person and I'm, whatever. It was way too long of him doing really crappy things and treating somebody really really poorly and being super selfish for me to like him or to feel like he could be redeemed in any way at all. I think he was a horrible person. He was a horrible character. And there was just, I mean, the fact that in the end it's like, oh, well, he's the only family I've got left, so I'm going to love him. No. You can't kidnap somebody, especially somebody with special needs. That's really uncool. I just couldn't get on board with this movie. I really hate it. If I could give it 0 popcorns, I would. It just was awful. 1 popcorn out of 5. I really hated it. I'll never watch it again. It was awful. And the last film that I had was Psycho. I left this one for last, and I'm really disappointed that I lost all of my amazing thoughts that I gave the other day, but I loved Psycho. I don't know where I had it in my mind that it was a horror film. It's not. It's a thriller. There is nothing horror about this film. It was black and white, and I think, was it released in like the 50s maybe? But, so it's a bit older anyway, but it was a thriller. It was like a psychological crime thriller. There's a murderer, and I knew a lot about this movie going in. If you don't know much about it, essentially, the main character is escaping because she stole some money. She goes to the Bates Motel, runs into Norman Bates, gets killed. He actually ends up having a dissociative personality disorder, and he has kept his mother's preserved body when she's already dead and has taken on her identity. That's not a spoiler because this movie has been around since the 50s. Go watch it. I was so gutted that Norman Bates was the killer. Gutted. I was so upset. I loved Norman Bates. That I was not prepared for the actor. He was so shy and kind, and he seemed so nice. I was so gutted that he was the killer. I was literally screaming at my TV going, no, Norman can't be the killer. I loved Norman. He was a beautiful person. I'm really sad that his mental health was the cause of him being a killer because he just seems like a genuinely kind, beautiful person. There was only a couple of points in this entire film where I actually saw the crazy psychopath in Norman, and the only main really big one was at the very, very end. There is a classic photo that I actually found online, and it's a picture of him. It's like that creepy, like, you know, you look down, but your head tilt down, but you're looking up and you're looking all menacing or whatever and smiling because you're super creepy about it. But that was like the moment at the very end where I'm like, ooh, crazy serial killer. But yeah, so I really liked this movie. I'm so sad that I waited so long to watch it because I really enjoyed it. And it got to be really intense and exciting and thrillery without too much gore and graphic stuff because you weren't allowed to show it at the time. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed the film. I gave it like 5 popcorns out of 5. I don't really actually even think that there was much that I didn't like about the film. Let me know if there are any other classic movies that you think I should be watching and you aren't sure if I've watched it. Put it in the comments below and I will either put it on the list or let you know if I have seen it and if I thought it was any good. And maybe I'll give you my popcorn rating for those. Who knows? I'll see you guys in the adventures.